What's up, guys? Today we are going to work on making a template that has some abstract swirls to it. Foreground, the background is kind of going to be part of the abstract swirls, as well as a mascot. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my swirls so you can see what I'm talking about. And right now they're placed on top of the player. We're going to decide where we want this to be. Excuse me. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with this by using brushes. Right now, I don't really recall which exact brushes I used to do each one, but we can go ahead and come up with our own look. So we have a royal blue in the background, yellow on top of that. Then I have another darker blue and white on top. Kind of polish it off with a little highlight. And each of these brushes that I just showed you are on a different layer. So I'm going to go ahead and make them all active. And we're going to recreate this. So the original is going to stay intact, and we're just going to come up with our own new version. So I'm going to turn the visibility off of my original and see what we come up with if we do this fresh and new. You should already have your PNG game down packed as far as cutting out your players. I like to use the pen tool, and I will post a link to a video that's not my video, but it's a very thorough tutorial of how to use a pen tool to cut out your subjects. So let's get started with a little paintbrush. I like to do a little trick with my paintbrushes. I keep my brush color white, but then I will go to my effects, and one way to shortcut to get to your effects is to double click on the thumbnail. It's going to automatically bring up the layer style or your effects, same thing. Let's do a color overlay, and I'm going to let it be this bright color blue or royal blue right now. And yes, I understand I'm doing LSU Tigers. But this is an image that I did for high school that was still Tigers, but it was blue and yellow. So I use these NFL teams and the college teams to excite you all about doing your graphics. But really and truly, you can modify these for your local schools and organizations, and pretty much be able to do endless designs off of a single template. Alright, so let's get going. I'm going to make my brush just a little bit bigger so I can see what it does, but I don't want it going off the edge of my design space. Place it, and that one looks a little stringy to me. Let me go grab me another one. So this background layer is going to be a little more blown out and fuzzy. And yes, I am painting, and see how the edge of my brush got right to the edge of this paper? I don't do that, and I'm gonna tell you why. When you go to print and you see that harsh edge, it's gonna drive me crazy. It might not drive you crazy, it'll drive me crazy if I see it. So I do my best to avoid that. Right now, also, let me take this state because I put it on there as another layer. I just want to show you how you can layer the same templates and get various effects. So I'm going to turn this opacity down. In fact, I'll just turn the layer off for now, because we may or may not use that element. Alright, so I'm thinking that by the looks of that last brush, I wasn't really feeling that last brush stroke. So back onto my layer here. I think what it is, I'm looking for it to be smoother, and I can do that. Also, if I change the direction, so these are your brush settings. You're not just stuck with the one way the brush comes. You can rotate it, you can flip it, all of that good stuff. So I'm liking that a little bit better. And this is just to give me a little glow. And of course it's above my player. So I'm going to put my player above this so you can get an idea of what it's really doing. That's more realistic. So for this color overlay, I think I am good with, no, I want to do a brighter blue. This is a little bit darker blue than I want. And I am going to do a darker blue, but it's going to be more of an accent. There we go. Fresh, bright blue. There we go. Next thing, let's do another blue layer. And this time we're going to do a little bit darker blue. So I'm going to create a new layer, right click or double click. Double click is going to be a color overlay. And it should by default change it or have it set as my last color I chose. So I'm going to change it to a little bit darker blue this time. Say OK. And let's choose us a brush here. So I'm going to right click and make the brush bigger so I can see what it really looks like. I don't think that's it. That was okay. So now to get a little bit of movement, got some swirls going on. Like I said, this one's a little bit different color than the one previous, but I kind of like those together. So I'm going to do my best to keep this file as little layers as possible because I know sometimes people get intimidated by that. I'm going to merge those layers because that actually, oops, I lied. I got to take off my effects first. So let's right click, clear layer style. Once I merge them, it'll be merged as if I did all of those brush strokes on one layer. And then I'm going to right click. And I can't paste my layer style because I didn't copy it first. I was supposed to copy the layer style first. However, we'll just double click and make it happen again. You gotta forget me out. I don't know if I have a cold or congestion or what's going on right now, but I said I was still gonna come through with these tutorials. Alright. So we just did the color overlay. That's gonna be our blue layer. So now let's build and let's make a yellow layer. Let's find a good brush we want to use. And then I couldn't see what that one was because I forgot to put my color overlay. Let us choose yellow. Say OK. Now I'm also going to rotate this brush because this one doesn't randomize, so I don't want it to look like I have the same exact brush and the same exact orientation. And if you click more than once, it's going to make the brush a little more opaque in the area that you click. Alright, I think that's my yellow. Let's do one more layer, and we're going to do a little white in the background, and I'm probably going to put a little white in the foreground too, just a little something to go over his helmet and maybe the ball. So this will be a new brush. Who this? Let's see. These are some of the hardest decisions you'll ever make. Which brush? There we go. Alright, so this one I'm doing white, and I'm going to keep it white. I'll offset it a little bit. I think I offset it a little too much. So I clicked twice so that I had a little bit more opacity to it. And then I'm going to stretch this out to my liking. Because more than likely whoever's here is going to be a single player. So I'm going to make sure whatever I do, it can kind of envelop the player that's going to be this main focus. And let's say for this particular image, I can control T, which is a transform, and then I can flip this because maybe that, nah, never mind, you can do it. Well, I thought maybe that little loop would do well around the football, but it didn't really do it for me. Maybe if I rotate it a little bit, then squish it in. So now the other loop is near his hand. That works for me. And I think we're missing a little something. I'm going to do this layer on top of the image because I want it to kind of be like a glare glowing effect. We're still going to keep it white. Let's do a new brush. This time, let's see what that looks like. No, that was the one that's kind of blown out. I want it to have an intentional kind of glare to it. That one will work, but we need to make it smaller. Right click, bring the brush size down a little bit. And maybe for this layer, you would highlight certain things. Maybe arbitrarily, maybe it'd be based on the actual image. So this might be something that you change based on the players. I'm going to right click, bring my size up just a little bit. A little too much. Bring it back down. And then that's not enough. Alright, so 511 is where we were at. I'm going to manually choose 700. That's more what I was looking for. Alright, so I think I'm okay with that right now. We shall see. By the time I finish it, I get a little antsy about stuff and change things. I think I need a little bit more blue in that background. And what I could do is I could paint on my already blue background with another brush. That way I can keep that look without having too many layers, because the objective is you want to be able to go back into this file and change all this stuff based on whatever team that you're working on. And the simpler you can make your files to start with, the easier it will be able to go back and modify, especially when you're doing on-demand stuff. So you may want to go to games, tournaments, that sort of thing, and offer to do some on-demand services. And if you're going to do that, you need things you can quickly change out. So that's why I also try to teach you how to make your own templates. I'm going to change the direction of this one. Here we go. Just to add a little bit more blue in it. right. I'm going to call that pretty much done. And then what I can do for, let's say, my white, if I felt like it was a little too opaque, I could go and bring down my fill. So it's a lot more subtle. Same thing with the highlights over it. Let's bring down the fill, make it a little more subtle. All right, and that was just what we did. Maybe like 10 minutes worth of playing with these brushes and making this effect out of paint brushes. Let's check out what the old versus new looks like, or the original. Wait a minute. Let me go ahead and group everything except for the player. So Control Shift, then I held down Shift to select all the groups, Control G to group it, and then I'm gonna pull that top layer down into group 1, and then we'll call this New Abstract Swirls. And you can see it's totally different. It has pretty much the same colors, some of the same brushes even, and just depending on how you wake up that day and what you create, it's going to be a little different. I don't know, I think I like my original better. Yeah, I do. And then I'm going to bring the player down underneath, I think, just my top layer. Let me see, I might be two layers. Yeah, because I have a little glow over his helmet as well. Alright, so that is, in a nutshell, how you can create your own abstract swirl background. Now we're just going to be adding some elements. So I may put the state in there. If so, I'm definitely going to do maybe a color overlay. And then that way that adds a little color into it. I could go with a gradient overlay just to show you what that looks like. And let's just say I want to choose a 2-color gradient. Then I could go to that 2-color gradient and switch out my colors at the color stops to be whatever's in the graphic. Like I said, we're going with the blue for now because the blue and the yellow, because we're going to globally change all these colors later. I just don't know if I'm going to end up using the state at all. We'll see. I might even just bring that opacity down for this layer overall and see. Maybe we'll even choose some type of effect. It's a color overlay. Whenever you do effects here and you try to bring down your opacity on that layer, it is not going to work. You have to change the blending options on the effects here. Say normal, and then we'll bring down the opacity here instead of through our layers. And then, I don't know, it just doesn't look like the state anymore. Let me try maybe a drop shadow. With a white stroke. It's not white. There we go. Just don't know if I'm feeling the state right now. I brought it in because I thought maybe I would have fun with that, but I don't know. We'll see. I might be being too hard on myself once again. Color overlay. And then for the entire blend mode, let's do a little more opacity. Take that bevel emboss off. Or maybe I'll do a darker color yellow. Bam, let's try that. Something needs to contrast between my swirls because I want to see my swirls. So color overlay. I'm going to choose one of these darker yellows. No, it's still not doing it for me. Blue. Darker blue. White. Okay. The white with the drop shadow is giving me the shape without throwing off my entire abstract swirl design. So let's see if we can go with that. Bring down this drop shadow opacity a little bit so it's a little more subtle. And that way it's just barely there. So we'll leave that alone. Alright, have my foreground, which is my player or my subject. We have the text on top of that, and the tiger is in the background. And all we did here, I'm going to disable this layer mask so you can see. It is just a photo of a tiger with a color overlay effect to it. And the overlay effect, I'll double click on it to tell you what it is because I can't remember the blend mode. It is exclusion used with the blue color here. So that exclusion with that blue color takes that orange and black and white tiger and makes it yellow and blue. Like I say, you got to play with these things, have fun with it. I'm going to bring back on my layer mask, and all I did was I took a brush tool, the soft brush tool, and I just painted around the edges until it faded out the part of the graphic that I didn't want to see. So now we are ready. Let's bring we have another text that has the name of the school name back on top, and all these the text layers have effects on them as well. So it has multiple strokes, a color overlay, and a drop shadow. Play with those things. It makes your text look more dynamic. It looks more fun. Looks like something that stands out from a vinyl job. So you'll see that I have several different strokes on this thing just to make it look like something other than a 2-color vinyl. Right, and then the thing that I want to show you for this one is that I also did clipped an image inside of the text for tiger. So right now you'll see it has a gradient, and that gradient actually goes, let me show you for the text. The gradient goes from a transparent to a color. So if you see here, you can see the checker mark through the gradient. Instead of doing one color to another color, I did a transparent. And if you don't have one already set up, select one of these default ones. It goes white to transparent. And then you could say okay. And then from here, like let's say if you wanted this to be blue, then you would go here to your stop, choose your blue, and now it'll fade from blue to transparent. I'm going to cancel out of that because I want to keep it how I had it. And then as far as dropping an image, like this is literally a photo of a real tiger, the full body picture of him, and I just wanted to get like the fur and the print. So I would take this image. I'm going to show you how I would do it if I was doing this fresh. That's the full image. I could drag it in. Just drag it in just like we would drag a photo in. Drag this big boy in here. And I'm going to pretend as if I never had a clipping path on there before so that you can see how to do this fresh. So whatever you did to your text, if you're going to do your gradient to the transparent, or if we take the gradient off altogether, I'll show you what that looks like. So right now I have the picture of my tiger. I'm going to place it the size that I want it over my text, and I don't want to see its legs and everything. I want it to be just the print and the fur kind of texture there. So I'll enter that. And then in order to see it as a clipping mask, I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a clipping mask. Now when you do this, you have to be sure of two things. One, that your image is on top, and two, that whatever you're clipping it to is immediately up underneath it at the same level. So you can't have one inside of a group, the other one outside of the group, and try to clip it. They have to be on the same level. I'm going to right click, create a clipping mask, and it just clipped that fur into the entire, and you might like it like that with the entire letters in the pattern, but I liked pulling that gradient overlay into it. And then in order to get this to work with all of the effects that I added to the inside, like the gradient, the tiger itself is on exclusion. So if I take, and you should always play with these little blend modes. I got darken, multiply. I do not know what they do until I go through and just move them around. What I say was exclusion is what we had selected before. There is exclusion. And then on this tiger, I also have a color overlay. So now we have a color overlay on the tiger, and a blend mode for that. So this isn't just a regular color overlay where it's normal. This one has the color blend mode. So if I wanted to show you that again, I'm going to double click on my tiger, give him a color overlay, and instead of exclusion, I'm going to do, what did we say was just color? Oh, that was my blend mode. I don't want to do that. Let's just choose normal for now. So color overlay, I'm going to choose a yellow and say that it is a color blend mode instead of normal. And let's see if we get the same effect. And there we go. So that changed our orange and black stripes to a yellow and black. And then for this one, let me check and see. Oh, that's my smart object. I want to double click on my effects. And the blending option for this is exclusion. So I would change this entire tiger blend mode to exclusion, and then I should get to see how my gradient affects the color. So blending mode, overlay, what do we say, exclusion. And let's turn our gradient overlay on, and now I can see my gradient overlay. So that's how that was achieved. I'm going to delete it because it's the exact thing that I already had. I don't like to only show you the template. I like to show you how you can create it for yourself as well. Alright, so I think I'm good with that. Now, overall, we said we were going to do some stuff as far as change colors. So I can literally go into each of these layers and I could adjust it to where I replaced blue with purple and all of that goodness there. But there is another way. This is a hue saturation layer, and basically what it does is it takes whatever colors you have in your graphic and it allows you to adjust it. So we're going to create our own version of this. Now I have everything that's my front design in a folder, and I'm going to change the colors of everything in that folder. So from here I'm going to do a layer, new adjustment layer, and hue saturation. And I'm going to make sure that I use the previous layer to create a clipping mask, because if I had anything else below this, I don't want it affected unless it's within this folder. So let's go ahead and double click on my hue saturation, and you could change everything globally, and by chance maybe it changes your colors to the right combination. That is not likely. So what I like to do is go into each color. So I'm going to choose my blues. First thing I do is I pull down the saturation to remove it completely. If it grays out, that means that's the color is going to be affected, and I'll crank it up all the way too, just to see if that's what I want to be changing. And from here now I can change the hue. So the hue is the actual base color. So I wanted to get it more purple. That looks too blue. That's more purple. And let's say I want to crank up my saturation to make it a little more pure of that color. And then I might want to bring my lightness down into a darker purple. And you can see some of my elements are changing in different ways. So the lighter area is changing different than my darker area down here. And that usually happens when you don't use the same colors. So when I was selecting my blues, if I was selecting more purple blues, then as I moved towards purple, then of course those blues would get a little more extreme. But I'm okay with that. And then let's say I wanted my yellows to not be as yellow. Maybe I want them to be a little more, I guess, golden yellow. If I wanted that to happen, then I would go to my yellows. I would pull my hue to where it made me happy, which is more that golden yellow. And then I will call this design pretty much done. I don't know if I would play with this date a little bit. Might possibly do that. Oh, the other thing, let me tell you, the original image of this one, the number was a little blue. If you remember, if I take this off, it really was not very purple, and you're going to end up with that a lot of times. So I have to extremely force my stuff to be more purple, make my reds more red. I do not like when I print something out and it doesn't have the same kind of the same hue. So I made it all match. But if you had your player and you didn't want him affected by this layer, then what you would have to do is anything you did not want affected by this color layer, you would have to pull it. So wherever he is, let me right click and select him. Tiger's 9 player, I would have to pull him, and I'm just pulling the copy of him out front. So I alt select and dragged him. So I would have to pull him out front, change everything else, like if I didn't want to see changes there, change everything else, and then what I would do is paint out the part where he is. And as a matter of fact, I'll do that. So we have this layer mask, hue saturation. I'm going to take my paintbrush with the regular brush tool, and on the layer mask, the layer mask for the adjustment layer, I would take my black and I would paint out. Let's say I wanted his original colors in there. I would just paint that out. And it might be the whole image. But that's one way you can get away with pretty much globally changing these colors and not having to go in and change the blue to purple every single instance that it happened. Especially now that you have a template together. So I'm going to right click and delete that layer mask. And I'll go ahead and create a new one just in case for later purposes. But I wanted it clean. And let's see, just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to see what it looks like without this state there. And this is what happens when you don't label your stuff. So we'll call this Louisiana State Silhouette. That's what I have to spell. I don't know, I think it adds a little something, but it's definitely not necessary. I'll leave it because I know the folks in Louisiana are extremely proud of their state. I see it all the time, so I'm going to assume that's something that folks would like in that area. And then if they wanted to change it, by all means, we could do that. Yeah, I think it actually adds a little something to it. So I'm going to call that done. And if that was probably like about 30 minutes worth of time, if you already have your image cut out, if you already have an idea of what your foreground, background images will be, also you could use this same type of, see, did that look the same? I'm going to put that one on. That one, this one has a darker purple. This one has a little more of a more vibrant purple. But basically, you get the idea that I could save this hue saturation and create an entirely different one. So let's do that real quick because I was about to show you something else. But let's say my tigers are there any other tigers out there that are weird colors? Not weird colors, but unnatural colors for a tiger. Tiger's orange and black, because you know what it would look like orange and black. I don't have to show you that. But let's say we were dealing with a red. I think red is a popular. Why did I just choose red? That's not what I was supposed to do. That's what happens when you talk while you're thinking. Alright, what I wanted to do was change this one so that the blues, because remember our original, I'm going to close this out so we can see what our original colors were. Delete that purple one. Let's start from scratch. So we have the blue and yellow. I'm going to layer, new adjustment layer, do a hue saturation. I was trying to shortcut and just use something I already had there. Realize that might be a little more confusing. So I'm going to take my blue layer. I'm going to change that hue to be, I think I told you, red. So we'll just move the slider left or right until we get closer to a red color. That looks to be it right about there. Oh, I like the maroon. Maroon tigers, yeah. Okay, I don't know if maroon tigers exist for any team, but I get excited about colors. So let's get that maroon popping. Matter of fact, is Bethune-Cookman, they're tigers. So that might work for that. And the thing is too, if you're looking to do something that's not infringing on licenses, I know a lot of times it's not what we're concerned about for our personal stuff, and especially for fan art. But let's say you wanted to make a BCU inspired design. You can use the photographs, you can use the colors, and maybe not put the BCU logo or even the players on there. Just make it your own, and these same concepts you'll be using. So let's see, I'm gonna crank the saturation up a little bit, make it a little more vibrant. Ooh, that black and yellow looks good too. Yeah, I could be here all day. All day. But I'm not. Let's go ahead and keep it maroon, and let's say for the yellow, so maroon would probably look good. Let's say with like a Vegas gold instead of this yellow gold. So what we would do is drag it to probably a little more orange, just a tad bit more orange. Bring the lightness up a little bit, and the saturation. A Vegas gold is more of a gray than a pure saturation. So let's play with that. Lighten it up a little bit. And then there might be another color in here that we are not working with. So we did blues. Let's try cyan and see if cyan is working with anything. No. So I can drag that saturation all the way down so that just in case it is somewhere, it's going to appear grayed out. I can go to my reds. And I do have reds. Oh, the other thing was, you see I was actually modifying the skin tones when I started playing with the reds. And that's fine, because what I could do is I can paint his skin tone back on, but that actually looks pretty cool taking it down. But I just want you to notice that there are parts of the graphic that are changing on the red level. So maybe you want to change the colors. That. And I think it more or less has to do with the flesh tones and how not so clean the original image was, like for the tiger. But I like it grayed out. And I would say that that's a whole nother edit. So we have the maroon and gold, then we have purple and gold, and you could go on with your, oh, and here's a magenta and gold. It just has both of them multiplied on top of one another. All right, so there was something, oh yes, the names and numbers. So this is an example for the back design. If you wanted to do the same effect, you could do name and number. This already has the tiger clipped in, so this is going to be on this template. You have the ability to copy and paste the layer styles from the front, and just paste that same layer style on the back. So let's say for my front, my tigers on top of the text. Let me choose my text. I can copy that layer style, and then I can paste it, let's say on sister. That's the name. Just paste that layer style. So I get the same effect there. And then I could copy the layer style from the tigers. Right click, copy that layer style, and then I'll paste it on the tiger that is clipped to the name. Right click, paste layer style, and I should get the same effect. So I could paste that same layer effect to the number 6. Well, I have to paste it to the tiger first, and then I'll take the layer style from the sister, right click, where I see the name, copy that layer style, and paste it onto the number 6. And then from here, if I want to use my same hue saturation technique, I can take this layer and I'm going to alt and drag it to the front. Now right now it's applying over the whole image. I just want it to clip down to that folder for the back. So I'm going to create a clipping mask, and you can see now it only affects this folder versus before it will affect everything below it. So I want to show you the front and back separate. Let's turn on the white background so you can see, and we can change this font. That's part of your template as well. So right click, go to our name, and I like to, once I'm done playing with these effects, I like to close up this these effects options so that my layers don't look too long and large. Let's double click on the text and let's type innate. Why not? And let's say I chose this really thick font so that you can see more of the eyes of the tiger, but you could also go into your text and change that font. So we just changed it to, this font is called Baywatch. Alright. So that is it, my friends. I think we are done with this for this full composition, and I'm actually going to go back. Well, no, they'll know what this layer name is. I think this is Futura Shop, the one that looks like the Nike Just Do It font. This one's Baywatch. So I've got my back. I'm going to group this layer, clean it up for template use for later. So we'll call this the back, name, and number. And then I'm going to get rid of that one that was extra. We'll call this layer, turn off our back, name and number right now. We'll call this maroon and gold. And this is hue saturation. I'm going to keep it named hue saturation so you remember that's what we did. And this one would be purple and gold. Saturation. And for those of you who want the template file, just click on the link. You'll be able to purchase the Photoshop template so you can go in and pretty much have the blueprint for this entire design. If you want to create this from scratch, that's what I'm always suggesting when I put together these videos, because I want your skills in Photoshop to get stronger and you to feel more confident in that. But if you need the template files, I will have those available. Y'all check out innatelab.com for your do-it-yourself needs for artwork, sublimation, technical support. I also coach people and mentor for Photoshop, sublimation. We have ink, paper, and substrates, so blank shirts and that sort of thing. So you guys check out innatelab.com, help support me so I can continue to put out these great free videos, and really soon I will have premium content and another group slash website that will be just for the premium members. So I'm trying to get this content up, seeing what my premium members would really appreciate, and then we'll get that pumping. So until then, you guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. If there's anything that you have as far as ideas, let me know. All right, guys, bye for now.